Good morning, brothers and sisters, and welcome to another edition of BFR Ministry Bible Facts Revealed. We are an extension of Absolute Bible Truth Atlanta, where Brother Joshua and Brother Big Baby are the teachers there, along with assistant pastors Brother Antoine and Brother LeVar. And we are Absolute Bible Truth Chicago. I'm Brother David, your teacher for today, and reading for me as usual is Sister Teresa.
How you doing?
And our motto here is, if they can't prove it, don't you believe it. But before we get into our class today, our lesson today, I'd like to just take a few minutes to thank all of you who recently became aware of my illness. It was very serious. And you sent prayers up to the Lord, and He heard those prayers. And I'm so thankful and glad to be sitting here before you once again. I'd like to thank specifically Brother Joshua and all of the ABT family members who prayed for me, along with simple strangers that heard that I was ill and just started praying. And believe me, they prayed enough where the Lord heard. And as you can see, I'm sitting here again before you. I'd also like to send a special thank you to Sister Lisi, who was a great inspiring inspiration to me and really kept me scratching and praying myself for the Lord to send a blessing down to heal me. So not only that, all the ABT members, as I said, in the United States and overseas, along with a couple of other special people. I'd like to also thank two visitors that came to the hospital and saw me, Brother Stevie Robinson and the late Mark Claiborne. I'd like to thank those brothers because they inspired me to become active again vocally and so forth. So with that said, God truly hears prayers. Yes, I'm a living witness of that. I'm a living witness, and we thank you from our hearts. We really thank you. We love all of you for doing so. My children as well prayed and also had their friends. So all of you, we are really, really grateful for your prayers because God heard them. I'm living proof of that. With that said, we'd like to get into our class today. And the title of our class is, Does Sex Constitute Marriage? Does sex constitute marriage? And the reason we decided to do this class is because over the years we've heard various camps, mainly Black Hebrew Israelite camp. Not all of them teach this, but they teach that simply if you have sex, a woman has sex with a man, well, she's automatically his wife. If a woman has sex with a man, vice versa. They teach that. Not all of them, but some of them do, at least the ones we know do. And we're going to show you that this is an error. This is not according to the scriptures, brothers and sisters. The Bible does not preach this. It doesn't say it in the Bible anywhere from Genesis to Revelation. And Jesus Christ, nor any of the apostles or the prophets promoted that type of teaching. Sex does not constitute marriage. And we're going to show you that according to the scriptures that we read you, and not all of them, because we can't give you everything, but we're going to give you enough for you to see that whoever taught you that or is still teaching that is teaching you an error according to the word of God. Sex, having sex, does not constitute marriage. You go out and you can't abstain a female and she has sex not with just one person, with 2 or 3 men. All these men, you gonna tell me, are her husband? If a man goes out, has sex with 3 or 4 women, can't abstain, all those women are his wife. Sex constituted him having these women to say that they're his wife. How they gonna get together as a unit? You got 4 women on 4 different sides of town. I live in Chicago. We got the west side, north side, etc. You got a woman from east side of town. He has sex with all of them. They all of them are his wife, not including the one that he's lawfully married to. So he's going to go get these 4 women and bring them to his home and tell his legitimate, lawfully wedded wife that these 4 women, he had sex with them and that constitutes them as being his wife, so they got to move in. No, The Bible does not promote this, brothers and sisters. This is some made up stuff by people who don't understand the scriptures. So what we're going to do is get right into this lesson, and we're going to show you according to the scriptures. Having sex does not constitute marriage. Okay? Having sex does not constitute marriage. And that's the question before all of you. Does sex establish or constitute marriage? The answer is absolutely no. And you're going to see that by what we read. So we're going to get right into this lesson. We're going to start at Matthew 1, and we're going to read the 18 to the 25, and we're going to take a look at Joseph and Mary. And we're going to see if sex established their marriage as being husband and wife. We're going to see if we can read that here. And if you can't read it here, that lets you know something is wrong. And we're talking about two prominent people of the Bible. And we're going to read a few more prominent people to you, their experiences and whatnot. And we're going to see if any of them had sex with their with the women in their lives, or vice versa, and established or constituted marriage. Sex, that is. We're going to show you that that is not the case, brothers and sisters. And you need to pay attention to this, because a lot of you have been swayed away from just plain and simple truth. Because you read it and somebody will say, no, it don't mean that. But you just read it. It does mean that. But let's get started and show them what we're talking about. This is Joseph and Mary, and we're going to read this. Pay attention to this, brothers and sisters, please, because it's going to open your eyes. Okay? Matthew 1, 18 to the 25. When you get to 18, start.
Now the birth of Jesus was on this wise. When his mother Mary was espoused to Joseph.
Wait a minute. She was espoused. We're going to look that word up and show you what it means. Okay? She was espoused to Joseph. Go ahead.
Before they came together.
Before they came together? Together in what way?
I guess to have sex.
That's absolutely correct, brothers and sisters. So she was espoused to Joseph before they came together sexually. This is what this is telling you. And we're going to look up that word espoused, and you're going to see what it means. Go ahead.
She was found with child of the Holy Ghost.
Okay, so this woman, Mary, was espoused to this man, Joseph, and before they came together sexually, she was found with child. In other words, she was pregnant, brothers and sisters. And we're going to look at the events here. Let's look at them a little closer than you have. And go ahead.
Then Joseph, her husband.
Wait a minute. He's a what?
Husband.
So that word espoused means something, brothers and sisters. So this is telling you here, Joseph was Mary's husband before they came together sexually. Did it establish them as husband and wife, or Joseph being? It don't say that, does it? Continue to read.
Being a just man and not willing to make her a public example, was minded to put her away privately.
What does put her away mean?
Divorce.
Divorce. How can he divorce a woman that he ain't married to?
According
to them, sex establishes marriage. He didn't have sex with Mary, so how was he her husband and she his wife? If they didn't have sex, brothers and sisters, this lets you know that what people have told you over the years, that you believe this and perhaps have mistaught other people into believing that, is wrong. Just from just reading this here. And we ain't even really into this lesson. But this is Mary and Joseph. This is the mother of Christ here. Okay? And his stepfather. Because he wasn't Jesus' father.
And this two verses are so very clear, we could really stop right here.
Simple as that.
But we won't.
But we won't. You know how we do things at ABT, Chicago as well as Atlanta. We don't do that. We give it to you. We give enough to you so you can defend the truth. That's what we are about at ABT Chicago and ABT Atlanta. That's what we do. We give you enough of what people haven't given you, and when you get it now, you can stand up and defend the gospel, the real gospel. This is it we're reading here. But continue to read. He said he was going to put her away privately, because why would he put her away? Because she breached their marriage agreement, brothers and sisters. This is why he wanted to divorce her.
And not only that, if she was with child, she must have committed adultery.
Exactly.
And that's one of the only reasons you can divorce.
Exactly. This is what you're reading right here. But we're going to continue to read this to pick up all that's attached to this. Continue to read.
But while he thought on these things, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a dream.
So an angel is going to explain to Joseph what's going on here, because he has no idea. He thinks Mary cheated on him, broke her word, broke her promise, her vow, breached her covenant of marriage to him. So this angel's getting ready to wake him up and let him know what's going on. Continue to read.
Saying, Joseph, thou son of David, fear not to take unto thee Mary thy wife.
Who?
Mary thy wife.
Mary thy wife, brothers and sisters. Not take a wife.
Or to be wife.
Or to be wife. It says thy wife. She was his wife. They were married, brothers and sisters. Go ahead. Without having sex. It didn't constitute or establish that marriage we read about right here. Go ahead.
For that which is conceived in her is of the Holy Ghost. And she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus. For he shall save his people from their sin.
Go ahead.
Now all this was done that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet.
The prophets wrote about this event here. You can read about this event. Go ahead.
Saying, behold, a virgin shall be with child.
A who?
A virgin.
What is a virgin, brothers and sisters? Mary was a virgin. She was unsoiled. She was not touched by any man. She had not been with any man. No matter how old she was here when this happened, she was a very pure, in other words. And the same thing can be said if you think and go back and look at the earth. When the Lord told you that he created Adam and brought him forth, and the earth was a virgin because no man had tilled the ground. All you got to do is go back there and read. That's what that's telling you. This is the same thing when you compare the two. The earth was a virgin at one point. Here it's telling you that Mary was a virgin. No man had touched her. This is what this is telling you. A lot of people say that she wasn't, that he had sex with her. But is this what we're reading here?
No.
We're not reading that. Pay attention to what you're reading here so you can correct people who have been preaching to you the wrong thing. Go ahead and finish this.
And shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel.
Go in Isaiah and read this. Go ahead.
Which being interpreted is God with us.
Continue to read. Go ahead.
Then Joseph, being raised from sleep, did as the angel of the Lord had bidden him.
He woke up. Okay. Boom. You know what's going on now. So now look what it says. Read this.
And took unto him his wife.
Who was she?
His wife.
His wife, brothers and sisters. That's who Mary was. And again, we're going to show you what established her as his wife. It said nothing about no sex. That did not constitute them being husband and wife. You can't read that anywhere in the Bible, specifically here. But can you continue to read this?
And knew her not.
Knew her not sexually. This is what this is telling you. So is sex in this equation anywhere?
No.
Absolutely not, brothers and sisters. And you haven't paid attention to this. And you let people tell you that nonsense that see you sleep with them. You don't know a man from Adam. Go out here and a man, you get taken away with his words and whatnot and wind up having sex with him. Sisters do, and all of a sudden, well, I'm your husband. How is that? You haven't agreed to nothing. Nothing has been established. You understand? And just simply because he had sex with you, he's your husband or you his wife? That doesn't even make any sense. You don't know the man. He doesn't know you. And yet you husband and wife? Mm-hmm. That's a sacred thing, brothers and sisters. You ever heard of fornication? Adultery? Anyway, continue to read this.
And knew her not till she had brought forth her firstborn son.
This is telling us what? He didn't have sex with Mary until after Jesus was born, brothers and sisters. But they were already husband and what? Wife. Already married. Sex had nothing to do with establishing anything here. Okay? So Joseph and Mary were married, husband and wife, before he had sex with her. Okay? Now we're going to
And he called his name Jesus.
That's right. Now, we're going to define a few of these words. It says that Mary was espoused, okay, to Joseph, right? Let's go and to the Strong's Bible Concordance, and we're going to look up a few of these words here to get a clearer and a more concise understanding of the meaning of them. And this is why you read what you read. This is why it was worded that way, because these words in here mean something, and we're going to just tie the loose ends up for you and make sure that this is even more concrete. So when somebody brings you that foolishness, you can correct them according to the scriptures. We're going to go to the Strong's Bible Concordance in the Greek section, 34:23, and we're going to look up the word translated espoused.
The word is menestuo.
Right, and what does it mean?
From a derivative of 34:15.
Mm-hmm.
To give a souvenir.
To give a souvenir? How can a man and a woman give each other a souvenir? What we talking about here? Marriage. He's giving himself unto her, and she is giving herself unto. Is that not what this is saying?
Mm-hmm.
This is what espoused is. They're giving themselves to one another in what?
Marriage.
In marriage. This is what this definition, that's what that word espoused means. Continue to read it.
Engagement present.
Mm-hmm.
I.e. betrothed. Espoused.
Espoused. They're betrothed to one another. They're promised to one another. They promised to be husband and wife. So they were married in this wise, brothers and sisters. That's what establishes a marriage. Your word, your vow, your promise. This is in simple terms, contract.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. And it can't be breached by you or her for the wrong reasons. But anyway, that's what espoused mean. They were bound they were bound by contract, promise, or pledge, and as a married couple. But we're going to continue. We're going to go into now and look up this word espoused again in the Concise Oxford Dictionary. We're going to look at page 406 in the Concise Oxford Dictionary, and we're going to look up the word again, espoused, and see what it says it means. It's going to be the same thing, but we're just going to give you enough of this so you can be strengthened when you start defending that sex does not constitute marriage. Something more prevalent does. An agreement, for instance. A contract, for instance. These things are more prevalent than fornication. You're trying to say fornication establishes marriage. This is what you've been teaching people when you do that. When you say that. Man go out here and fornicate, he married. No! And that's what you've been teaching people if you are one of them people that's been doing it. Not all Hebrew Israelite camps teach that, but a lot of them do. Anyway, in the Concise Oxford Dictionary, page 406, we're going to look up the word espoused. When you get it, read it. It's very simple.
Usually of man.
Mm-hmm.
Marry,
Mm-hmm.
give woman in marriage to.
That's what we read in the Strong's.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing. You espouse mean you're giving each other one in marriage. You're married. Simply without sex. This is what this is telling you. We're going to stay in the Concise, and we're going to flip over to page 112 in the Oxford Dictionary, Concise Oxford Dictionary, page 112. And we're going to, because it mentioned betrothed in the Strong's when we read that definition. Let's look at the word betrothed and see what that means, because it's connected. All these words are connected, brothers and sisters. And when you get there, it's like you're already married, meaning you are. Okay, this word betrothed, what does it mean?
Bind with a promise to marry.
With a what?
A promise to marry.
Again, your word. That's what binds you. That's the contract. When you give your word, you have entered into a contract, brothers and sisters. And what's wrong with people nowadays, pastors are not teaching them that. You be very careful about what you promise somebody, because the Lord is listening. And you're going to be held accountable if you don't complete what you have vowed or promised to do. The book tells you that. You can read that in the Old Testament. But anyway, stay in the Concise again and go to page 582, and we're going to look up a very simple word. We're going to look up the word husband. A lot of you know what it means, but we're just going to read the definition to you so you can be a little bit more concise in terms of explaining it. Very simple again, but just read that. We're going to look up the word husband, concise Oxford Dictionary, page 5882. What does it say?
Man joined to woman by marriage.
Wasn't Joseph who? Mary's husband. They were married without having sex, brothers and sisters. Let's continue. Let's stay in the concise, and we're going to go to page 1470 and look up one more word. And since we looked up husband, we're going to look up the word wife and see what that means. See if there's any difference in the meaning of husband and wife. So when you get there, 1470, concise Oxford Dictionary, what is the word wife or the meaning of the word wife? Read number 2.
Married woman.
Who?
Married woman.
A wife is a married woman. And we just read to you what constitutes marriage, not sex. Go ahead.
Especially in relation to her husband.
Her husband. Go ahead. That's good enough. We don't need to read the rest of that. But a married woman, especially in relation to her husband. That's what a wife is, brothers and sisters. She has a husband. And they are married, lawfully married. Okay? And sex has nothing to do with that. Okay? Now we're going to get back into the Bible and we're going to continue to look at this thing. We're going to look at another example of this by looking at 2 more famous people in the Bible. 3 actually, well 4 actually. But we're talking about Laban, Joseph, Rachel, and Leah. And we're going to look at the circumstances surrounding them and see if it's anywhere in here and the places we go historically and see if sex established anything. And we're going to tell you before we even read it, no, it did not, because you haven't been paying attention. You haven't been looking up any words. You don't understand this, but we're going to read it to you today so you can clearly see sex don't establish anything according to the Word of God from Genesis to Revelation, brothers and sisters. All right, we're going to go to Genesis 29. We're going to start at the 15 and read to the 23, and then skip and read 25 to the 28. This is Laban here and his 2 daughters, Rachel, Raquel, if you want to, and Leah. Okay, and Jacob. Jacob wound up marrying both these sisters, and we're going to show you how that came about. He did not go to that land of Laban looking for no 2, 3, 4 wives. He was sent there by his father to get 1 wife along with a helper, Eleazar, to get 1 wife. And he got mixed up with wicked Laban and wound up with 2 sisters. And the circumstances behind this, no other man out there has been involved in anything like this, so don't put yourself in this situation. You ain't like this, you don't know nobody like this, I'm not like this, nor your brother or your cousin. This ain't happened to none of your people. So don't try to use this to convince people that this is an unusual circumstance that happened to this one man. I haven't read in any of the ancient books or the Bible that this happened to any man other than Jacob. Okay? So don't try it. All right, we're going to start reading at the 15.
And Laban said unto Jacob, because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught?
I mean, work for me for nothing? Go ahead. They're getting ready to enter into something here. Go ahead.
Tell me, what shall thy wages be?
What shall your payment be? What do you want? What amount do you want? Go ahead.
And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah.
And she's the eldest daughter. Okay, remember that. Go ahead.
And the name of the younger was Rachel.
All right, go ahead.
Leah was tender-eyed.
And let's stop before that. Tender-eyed, brothers and sisters, simply meaning she had an eye affliction. Both her eyes were afflicted. Not one of them, like people be trying to tell you. No, if you read and research, you'll see that she had an eye affliction, meaning both. Something was wrong with her sight. Okay? And this was the only difference between her and her sister. And we're going to show you that as we get on in this lesson. That's the only thing that they had different in terms of how they looked. Okay? Go ahead and finish that.
But Rachel was beautiful and well favored.
And we're going to show you that Leah was also beautiful. Okay? And well favored, because if he could not recognize her as we get into this story, she had to be beautiful and well favored too. Because he didn't recognize, all he did was wake up and she was in the bed with him. How in the world can a man marry a woman, okay, and he loved her for 7 years and don't recognize that it wasn't her? Think about what I'm telling you. But anyway, let's continue this.
And Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter.
Now, what is this that they're entering into here?
That's an agreement.
It's an agreement. It's a contract, brothers and sisters. This is what established this. And it established something, and you haven't been really reading this to understand what this established. This agreement right here, I will work, this is what he said, sir, work for these 7 years for Rachel. And she is who? Finish reading that.
Thy younger daughter.
Her youngest daughter. Go ahead.
And Laban said, it is better that I give her to thee than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days, for the love he had.
And this is a big thing here. That man worked for this woman 7 years and it seemed like a few days in terms of him. I mean, every day's man work, I bet he had a silhouette of her beauty, how beautiful in his head. And he was working like it wasn't nothing. Like, hey, he worked 3, 4, 5, 6 days.
And he really didn't have to have it in his head because he was right there abiding with them.
Exactly. So, but in the case of him loving her and not being able to touch her, hey, it's only, how could this man wake up in the bed with her sister and not know it was her before he did that? We're going to show you. Anyway, continue to read.
And Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in unto her.
Now, wait a minute. He said, before he had touched Rachel or Raquel, give me my what?
Wife.
My what? Because he was espoused. The contract established and made her this man's wife. And I got news for you, brothers and sisters. You ain't been paying attention. She was his wife for those 7 years. She was espoused to this man, and they were married 7 years. This is what you're not paying attention to. Then we read that they were espoused. This is what you're reading here. So she was his wife, according to the agreement that he had established with her father Laban. But something real bad gets involved in this thing and screws it all up. But anyway, we just wanted to put that out there so you know that the contract established her as his wife. That's why he said, Laban, give me my wife. Because that's what she was, brothers and sisters, for 7 years. But anyway, go ahead and continue to read this.
And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast.
A feast. This is a reception.
Wedding
reception. They're celebrating. Okay? Now keep on reading.
And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to him, and he went in unto her.
We missing a whole lot of information here. Something else had to happen here. The Bible just takes you right in. No, we're going to take a historical look and we're going to clear this up in terms of what really happened here. Because some treachery went on here, some real wicked stuff by the hand of her daddy Laban did to this man Jacob. He did some treacherous things to him to bring this about. But
and he just wasn't simply drunk.
No.
As I was told by someone before.
Exactly. But we're going to clear that up. We're going to clear it up.
And was so drunk he couldn't recognize that it wasn't Rachel.
We're going to clear this up because she's absolutely right. That's not the case, brothers and sisters. Something else happened here, and it was treachery, pure treachery on Laban's part toward Jacob. But skip down to 25, and we're going to read to the 28.
And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah.
Go ahead.
And he said to Laban, what is this thou hast done unto me?
He's injured this man by doing this. That's injury, brothers. It's like a physical injury. This man was injured by this wickedness here.
This is also a breach
in the contract. Serious breach. And I'm going to show you what happened to Laban. The Lord did something to him for doing this. I'm going to show it to you. But anyway, that's later on down the line. But go ahead. Continue reading this.
Did not I serve with thee for Rachel?
I worked for these 7 years for this brother. What you done to me, man? What have you done? Go ahead. Moreover, what have you done to your daughter? Because I'm going to show you something with regard to this. Jacob was a free man. He was not obligated to Leah in any way. And we're going to show you that. This is where that confusion comes in, where people be telling you, at least the place that we came from, well, see, he slept with us. No. Didn't make her his wife because he had sex with her. He had nothing to do with Leah being in his bed. The daddy pulled this thing. Jacob did not know that was her. If he did, you think he would have slept with her, working 7 years for Rachel? Think, brothers and sisters. He was not obligated to either one of them after this. But we're going to show you this too. Go ahead.
Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me?
You lied to me. You tricked me, brother. Why did you do this? And we had a contract. We had a deal. We had an arrangement. A lawful arrangement. Well, I bound myself to your daughter and her to me. She was my wife for these 7 years. How could you beguile me like this? Or beguile me like this? Go ahead.
And Laban said,
and this is the reason he gonna give him. Go ahead.
It must not be so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn.
Why did he tell this man that in the first place? This is why he was trying to be slick early on. Said, well, I might as well give it to you, because he wanted him to marry Leah. But he didn't say that. But that's, when you read this is what's going on here. But he could have told Jacob that from Jump Street, and I don't think he
he wouldn't have worked for him.
Exactly.
So he tricked him right from the beginning.
Exactly. You got to look at the treachery here, brother, and break this thing down and get all the little intricacies in here. It's a whole lot going on in here. But anyway, continue reading.
Fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years.
So he is rewriting the agreement. He's making up a new arrangement or a new contract, brothers and sisters. The old one was voided out. It was no good. Laban breached it. Jacob had nothing to do with this. And I'm going to show you this as we get further on. So he's making a new deal with him, saying, okay, well, look, take the oldest girl, Leah, and then work for me another 7 years, and I'll give you Rachel, because I know you love her. Had Jacob been over barrel, because Jacob really loved her. Rachel. And he was willing to work for her another seven years, brothers and sisters. But on the other hand, agreed to this new arrangement, this new contract that Laban resubmitted to him. And he agreed to it. That's what made Leah his wife. You're not paying attention to what you're reading. It made Rachel his wife from the beginning for 7 years. What? Not sex. An agreement. A contract. What you think this is here? You're reading about.
It was breached.
That contract was breached, so he's doing another one. And this one makes Leah his wife. Because he says, this is all new here. And then he's going to work 7 more years for Rachel, and then she's going to become his wife. But anyway, continue reading this.
And Jacob did so.
And he did so. Go ahead.
And fulfilled her week. And
he worked 7 more years for Rachel. Go ahead.
And he gave him Rachel, his daughter, to wife also.
To wife also. Because of what? Sex? No. This didn't say that. This is talking about an arrangement, agreement, a contract, brothers and sisters, and you haven't paid any attention to this. You have just let these Hebrew Israelite pastors give you anything without using your own mind, without looking at this stuff and saying, wait a minute, this didn't say that. Sex didn't establish anything here. And we're going to further show you this. Clear as can be. But anyway, finish reading that.
I did.
Okay, now, this is a new deal that Laban brokered, and Jacob agreed to it. It made Leah his wife. If he wanted Rachel, hey, take the oldest daughter. He could have told Jacob this, but this is what we're reading about here. So he rearranged the whole thing by way of treachery and deceit and trickery, and this is what it comes out to be. Now we're going to take an historical look at this thing. We're going to go to the book of Jasher, a book that's mentioned in Samuel, and it's mentioned in the Bible. It tells you to pick up this book and read it. The reference, I think it's 1 Samuel and it's Joshua. You can go in there and see what the Lord tells you to pick this book up and read it, brothers and sisters, because it gives a more detailed account of many things you read in the scriptures, okay? And many of the prophets read this book as well as the apostles. They read this book, okay? And also Jubilees and other books, and Enoch as well, and quoted from them. But anyway, that's another lesson in itself. I just wanted to bring that out. So we're going to go to the book of Jasher and take a historical look at this thing. And we're going to see what happened. We're going to go to Jasher 31. We're going to start at verse 1 to the 4 and skip to 6 and read to 13. And we're going to take a historical look at this record of Rachel, Leah, and of course Jacob and her wicked father Laban, their wicked father Laban. And we're going to see if this exposes any more information in terms of what we didn't clearly read in the Bible, because the Bible doesn't give you all of the details. So a lot of things that happen in other books will give you the details, and you can get a fuller understanding of basically what it is that the Bible is telling you. So we're going to do so. When you get to 1, we're going to read the same event right here.
And in the 7th year, Jacob's service, which he served Laban, was completed.
No, this is what we read in the Bible. The contract is up, and he's going to tell him something. The same thing we read in the Bible. Go ahead.
And Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife.
She was his wife for 7 years. That's why he said that, brothers and sisters. The contract that he established with her father made this woman her, he was her husband, and she was his wife for those 7 years. And you're not paying attention to this. But go ahead.
For the days of my service are fulfilled.
My contract is up. I want to touch my wife now, because I've completed my part of the deal. My work for you is over. Give me my wife. And that's what we're talking about. Go ahead.
And Laban did so.
And he did so. So he brought Rachel to Jacob. Go ahead.
And Laban and Jacob assembled all the people of that place, and they made a feast.
And this was in the daytime. We're gonna read that to you. He brought, just like he asked him, Rachel to him. Mm-hmm. And this was the daytime. We're gonna read that, but I'm just telling you ahead of time. And so she's sitting there, they're having a reception and whatnot, and she's with her husband, he's with his wife. They ain't having no sex. Did it say sex? No. So let's continue to read this.
And in the evening, Laban came to the house.
Now it's nighttime. In the evening. Go ahead.
And afterward, Jacob came there with the people of the feast.
Okay.
And Laban extinguished all the lights.
Wait a minute. He did what?
Extinguished all the lights.
This man been sitting out there when it's light in front of everybody, and they rejoicing and feasting and whatnot and eating and whatnot. So they moved the thing to the house. But now by this time it's night, it's evening. And not to make matters worse, Laban goes in the house and cut all the lights out, brothers and sisters, so he can't see clearly enough to catch this move that Laban is getting ready to pull. Go ahead.
And Laban extinguished all the lights that were in the house. Mm-hmm. And Jacob said unto Laban, wherefore dost thou do this thing unto us?
They can hardly see. You know, and he gonna tell him another lie. Go ahead.
And Laban answered, such is our custom to act in this land.
Really? To put all the lights out and have a reception in the dark? That's a custom in your come on, brothers and sisters. This is treachery here. He's trying to conceal something. He's trying to hide something. Go ahead.
And afterwards, Laban took his daughter Leah.
That's why he did it. He pulled the switch right here. Turned the light. It's nighttime. Then he cut the lights out. Extinguished the lights in the house, and he brings Leah instead of Rachel. Remember, she was with him because it said he gave him.
He did so.
He did so. He gave him Rachel when he was in the daytime. But then when the night came, he pulled a switch. And still, he's not going to recognize this is Leah. This ought to tell you something about these two sisters, too. Because remember, the only difference in them is that Leah had an eye problem.
She was tender-eyed.
Tender-eyed. Some people call it lazy eye and other things, but she had an eye affliction. Both her eyes were bad. She had bad sight. That's what it's telling you. But he pulls the switch here with the lights out and brings her Leah. Go ahead. Brings him Leah.
And he brought her to Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
And he came to her, and Jacob did not know that she was Leah.
Well, how come he didn't recognize this woman, brothers and sisters? I'm quite sure he had to get up on her and touch her after all 7 years of not being able to put his hands on her. He had to get up on this woman close enough to touch her, and he didn't recognize that this was not Raquel or Rachel? Something is wrong here. These sisters had to look a lot alike for him not to recognize, but then again, he had the lights out. Some people say he was drunk. No, he wasn't. He had been drinking and celebrating like most people do at wedding receptions and whatnot, but he wasn't drunk. Can't read that nowhere. But in any case, look at this here. He said he did not know that she was Leah. Ask yourself why. Skip down to verse 6 and continue reading.
And all the people at the feast knew what Laban had done to Jacob.
The people knew he had pulled something here. And go ahead.
But they did not tell the thing to Jacob.
Go ahead.
And all the neighbors came that night to Jacob's house.
Again, this is nighttime, but the lights are out. This man can't clearly see what he dealing with here. Go ahead.
And they ate and drank and rejoiced and played before Leah upon timbrels and with dances. And they responded before Jacob, Hail Leah, Hail Leah. And Jacob heard their words but did not understand their meaning.
So they told him anyway, didn't they? Hail Leah. Man, this is not Rachel. This is not Rachel. This is Hail Leah. This is Leah, man. He didn't understand their language, and hey, he was warned, but he didn't understand what they were saying. Go ahead.
And he thought such might not be their custom in this land.
Because Laban had put that thought in his mind, so he thought this was another custom. Didn't think nothing about it. Go ahead.
And the neighbors spoke these words before Jacob during the night.
Mm-hmm.
And all the lights that were in the house Laban had that night extinguished.
They put all the lights out. And they're trying to help him, man.
Mm-hmm.
They trying to help the brother. Now, man, this man pull a big one on this brother. So we're gonna call her name out and see if he can pick up what we say, but he didn't understand. Go ahead.
And in the morning, when daylight appeared, Jacob turned to his wife, and he saw, and behold, it was Leah.
It wasn't his wife, was it?
Mm-hmm.
It was her sister Leah. She wasn't his wife. Mm-hmm. He didn't work 7 years for Leah. She was not his wife, brothers and sisters. And what he did with her at night didn't establish her as being his wife, because this man's mindset is, I got my wife, Rachel, and I'm finna go in there and have sex with my wife and blah, blah, blah. He wakes up, there's another woman laying there. He responsible for this. He didn't do this. And we're going to further show you this. Anyway, finish reading that.
Jacob turned to his wife, and he saw and beheld it was Leah that had been lying in his bosom. And Jacob said, Behold, now I know what the neighbors said last night.
Mm-hmm. He understands.
Leah, they said, and I knew it not.
He understood what was going on, but it was too late. Because if he had recognized what they was trying to say and tell him, he wouldn't have done none of what he did, brothers and sisters. He was not responsible for any of this. Laban was. Okay, continue reading.
And Jacob called unto Laban and said unto him, What is this that thou hast did unto me?
He's injured this man doing this. Go ahead.
Surely I served thee for Rachel, and why didst thou deceive me and didst give me Leah?
He lied to him and deceived this man and tricked this man and did this. This is wickedness, brothers and sisters. Go ahead.
And Laban answered Jacob, saying, Not so is it done in our place to give the younger before the elder.
To give Rachel before, I can't give you Rachel, man, before her sister Leah. So I pulled the switch on you. Why don't you tell the man this from the jump street? And you tricking the man and so forth. But continue reading.
Now therefore, if thou desirest to take her sister likewise.
Now he is restructuring a new contract here. Pay attention to this. Because as I told you, Jacob has no responsibility in this thing at all. This is what he's doing. He's a free man. So Laban has to move quickly now and play on his desire and his love for Rachel. Will he do this thing because of Rachel? So he's putting this thing to him in this manner, and he's going to have to make a decision. Well, do I take her older sister to get her? Because that's what he was putting in front of him. If you want Rachel, take her sister. And I'll give you Rachel, but you got to work another 7 years. You're going to get more labor out of him, too. He's a wicked man, brothers and sisters. This is a wicked man. But continue, start it over and read that again. And pay attention to this. This is what this is telling you.
Now, therefore, if thou desirest to take her sister likewise, take her unto thee for the service which thou wilt serve me for another 7 years.
Because he didn't know if Jacob would do this, so that's why he said if. Jacob wasn't compelled or under any law to go through with this because he was deceived, brothers and sisters. He was free. He did not bargain with her daddy to marry her, meaning Leah. He had no agreement with him about Leah. So this was a trick this man pulled. So now he said, if you desire to take her sister, meaning Rachel, then you take the eldest. Because, our custom, we put that in our custom, won't let the younger marry before the old. So Jacob agreed to do this. Continue reading.
And Jacob did so.
He agreed to this new contract, did he not? Go, this is what this is telling you. Go ahead.
And he also took Rachel for a wife, and he served Laban 7 more years.
Exactly.
And Jacob also came to Rachel
after he took her
to wife.
After, brothers and sisters, not before. He agreed, this arrangement established Rachel as his wife. He entered into another agreement and worked for her 7 more years. What established Leah as being his wife. He agreed. And to do with the sex. And we're going to show you that very clearly when we read something else. We'll go ahead and finish this up.
And Jacob also came to Rachel, and he loved Rachel more than Leah. And Laban gave her his maid Bilhah for a hand.
Let's move and finish this up, this thing here, and I'm going to show you that he was a free man. We're going to go to another historical book. We're going to go to the book of Jubilees, and we're going to pick up this situation. We're going to get right to the point. And we're going to show you that what we've been saying about this situation and circumstances is what we've said. But we're going to read it clearly here. And we're going to read another. This is the book of Jubilees. It's called the Little Genesis, brothers and sisters. And it's another historical reference that the Hebrews used and understood and read and even taught out of it. And that's what we do. And that's why we do this. But anyway, we're going to go to the book of Jubilees, chapter 28. And we're going to read from the 3 to the 5. And we're going to pick up Jacob scolding Laban for his deception and his wickedness toward him pertaining to these 2 women. When you get to the 3, and remember, Laban cut the lights out. And he didn't bring Leah in the daytime to him. He waited till it got dark, and then he cut the lights out in the house to hide that flaw that Leah had. Remember, she had bad eyes. Everything else they had alike. They looked just alike. They were twins, brothers and sisters. That's the only way this could have happened like this. That this man didn't recognize her. Only way. Ain't nobody gonna wake up and you done loved a woman for 7 years and you get ready to go in unto her, and then a man slip another strange woman there and you don't, whoa, who are you? Any man, even some men that are high or drunk, they say, wait, oh, who is this woman? This ain't the woman that I bargained for, that I worked for. They're gonna say that. But this is not the case right here. But when you get to the 3, start reading.
And he went into her And behold, it was Leah.
It was Leah. This is the switch. We read about that in the Bible, and we read about it in the book of Jasher, and now we're reading about it in another historical book, the book of Jubilees, but it's going to be real clear. Go ahead.
And Jacob was angry at Laban and said to him, "What hast thou done? Why hast thou done this? Have I not served thee for Rachel and not for Leah?"
That's right. He's what's wrong with you, man, doing this to me? But pay attention to what he's saying here. Go ahead.
"Why hast thou injured me? Take thy daughter, and I will go, for thou hast done evil to me."
We're going to read that again. Read that one more time. Why hast thou injured me?
Why hast thou injured me? Take thy daughter, and I will go, for thou hast done evil to me.
Brothers and sisters, Jacob was a free man, like I told you. When he realized that this man used treachery and deceit and lies and whatnot, and had pulled a switch and breached this agreement when he was espoused to Rachel, hey, he was free. That's why he told him that, Leah, I ain't making no agreement with you, man, about no Leah. Take your daughter and go, and I'll go. I'm gone, because I ain't obligated to nobody. Now, since you done broke the contract that we had.
And wait a minute, this is after he had sex with her.
Hey, it didn't establish nothing, did it? He had sex with Leah. It didn't make her his wife. This right here proves that, brothers and sisters.
And another thing, when he said, "Why hast thou injured me?" When you deal with contracts, when a person breaches it, you have what? An injured party.
That's right. You're not paying attention to this. This is what the Bible has been telling us all along, and people have been just messing this thing up, talking about sex. No, it didn't establish nothing. He said, hey, why has thou injured me? Because you done broke this deal we had, man. He said, take thy daughter. What daughter? Leah. This is what he said. And I will go. Okay? He was a free man. He wasn't obligated to do nothing with Leah, because that is not the contract that he was operating under. He was expecting Raquel, his wife, because that's what she was, and he could not touch her until he had finished labor or working that 7 years, and he could come together with her. But there wasn't no sex involved in either one of these sisters until after he did what he did. Laban restructured this contract, and we're going to finish this out and further establish that. Go ahead.
For Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah, for the eyes of Leah were dull.
See, again, this is why he had to cut the lights out, brothers and sisters. She just had this eye affliction. Both her eyes, she had bad sight. Her perception in terms of her sight was not keen. You know, her eyes moved slow, stagnant. She didn't have vivid vision. Go ahead.
But her form was very beautiful.
But her form she was just like her sister. They was both beautiful. That's why he didn't think it was nothing wrong when he looked at her. Probably silhouette, because all the lights was out. She looked, hey, just like her sister. They were twins, brothers and sisters. That's the only way this could have worked. Go ahead. And if you read other historical records, you'll find out that that's the truth.
But Rachel had beautiful eyes, and a beautiful and very attractive form. And Laban said unto Jacob, "It is not the custom in our land to give the younger before the older."
Okay. Did you finish reading verse 5? Okay, good. That's enough. We just wanted to get in and show you that, like I said, sex did not constitute marriage or Jacob being married to either one of these sisters, brothers and sisters. Sex had nothing to do with this. And even the daughter that he had, the sisters that he had sex with, he was a free man because he did not contract to marry or was not married to Leah. So when he found out, right, he wasn't espoused to Leah. So when he woke up and it was her, he was free. He wasn't obligated. That was just her dad. That was on her daddy. And if you read further historical records, the Lord killed Laban for doing this. I just want to let you know that he didn't get away with this treachery and this wickedness, brothers and sisters, which you ought to be mindful of. You can't get away with stuff when you breach contracts and stuff before the Lord, and you vow and swear and enter into something, and then you breach it and think you're going to escape. Don't work that way. So, in terms of what we read here about Jacob, Leah, Rachel, and Laban, sex established nothing. Okay? He was espoused both times to these two sisters. That's what established them as his wife and he their husbands, brothers and sisters. But anyway, let's move on and find if we can find any other examples in the book. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's go to Genesis 2, and we're going to read 21 and 25, and we're going to read about two of the most famous people in this Bible, our father and our mother, our father Adam and our mother Eve. And we're going to see what established their marriage. Because we saw from reading about other people that came after them what established theirs. We're going to see if this started with Adam and Eve, because if it did, then what do we supposed to do today? Same thing. Sex does not establish marriage, brothers and sisters. It doesn't constitute marriage. We haven't read that thus far, and we're not going to read it if we keep reading. We can read all night and all day, and we won't read that in the scriptures from Genesis to Revelation. Sex constitutes nothing in terms of it really being marriage. No, it does not constitute marriage. It doesn't establish a marriage.
And if sex, did, then how can anybody ever be a fornicator? Because fornication is sex without marriage.
This is true. You just wiped out the definition or the relevance of fornication, adultery, and even whoremonger or idolater, because they all connected, brothers and sisters. When you say sex constitutes or establishes a marriage, you just wiped all those words out. You might as well throw the Bible away. And you don't understand this because you don't define nothing. But anyway, let's take a look at our father and our mother and see what they did, what established their marriage. And if it is not sex, you need to pay attention to that and act accordingly. Get married first. That's what we've read thus far. The two examples so far, that's what we find out. This is the third example, and this is back in the beginning. When you get to verse 21 in chapter 2, read.
And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept.
Go ahead.
And he took one of his ribs. One.
Not three?
No.
Not 5 ribs?
Not
took
even
one,
2.
brothers and sisters. This is letting you know something else. Go ahead.
One of his ribs, and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman.
It didn't say women?
No.
Made a woman one. Just let you know something else, brothers and sisters. Go ahead.
And brought her unto the man. And Adam said...
He didn't bring her to men?
No.
One man, one woman, one man here. This is what we're dealing with, brothers and sisters. This ain't got nothing to do with no polygamy, by the way. Go ahead.
And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh.
Now, pay attention to what Adam is getting ready to say to the Lord. Because he's talking to the Lord. The Lord gets this rib and creates, fashions this woman and so forth, and brings her to this man. Now Adam is getting ready to make a proclamation or a promise or a vow to God pertaining to who? This woman. This is what established them as being husband and wife. Eve didn't have to say nothing. She was not first. Adam was made first. So Adam is going to proclaim this as the head of this union here. What he's going to do, he's going to tell the Lord what he's going to do, what he's going to carry out toward this woman, and she's going to become his wife after he get through speaking. But we're going to see if it was sex first, or if it was just words or a vow that espoused them into becoming husband and wife. We're going to see. Start it over again and read that.
And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh.
Go ahead.
She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man.
Go ahead.
Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh.
And cleave unto his wife. What made Eve his wife?
This proclamation?
This is the marriage ceremony right here, brothers and sisters. When he completes this saying here, this proclamation to God, that's what Eve was, his wife. Mm-hmm. Does sex have anything to do with this? Mm-mm. Absolutely not. But go ahead and finish that.
And they were both naked, and the man and his wife were not ashamed.
Man and his wife. Man and his wife. He had to be her husband then, right? This is what we reading here. Ain't got nothing to do with no sex, brothers and sisters. People have been misleading you.
She was just created. They had not had sex.
So that's simple. And she became his wife through his promise to God pertaining to this woman. Through his vow to God pertaining to this woman. He made this proclamation or entered into this oath and bound himself to this woman and became her husband, and she became what?
His wife.
His wife. Words establish this, not sex. You haven't read that once thus far, okay? But this is our father, Adam, and our mother, Eve. Mm-hmm. And sex had nothing to do with making them husband and wife. And we're going to show you when he had sex with her. This was way after they had been through this thing. And let's go quickly to Genesis 4 and read one verse, the first verse in Genesis chapter 4. And let's see when she had sex with him, what it says here. Go ahead.
And Adam knew Eve, his wife.
I mean, he had sex with her. Go ahead.
And she conceived.
This is what proves that she conceived. That's what knew her in this sense means, because she conceived. So we know automatically from just reading the context here, we talking about this man having sex with his wife. He didn't have sex with her before she was married, though. And he was married. No. Espoused to each other. Brothers and sisters, but go ahead.
She conceived and bare Cain and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord.
She's got. But this happened after.
This was even after they got kicked out of the garden.
Brothers and sisters, you got to pay attention to what you read. People have been telling you stuff and you haven't bothered to really put your eyeglasses on and sit down and open this book and try to get some understanding on your own, because if they ain't teaching it to you, you're going to have to pray for it or have to listen to somebody else to get it, because right now we have shown you in 3 different circumstances that sex does not constitute marriage. The Bible don't preach that, brothers and sisters, from Genesis to Revelation. Anybody that has told you that or preaches that to you is making up their own doctrine. That's what they've been doing. Now let's move on. We're going to go to the Apocrypha and look at another example of this. And the Apocrypha is the Old Testament, brothers and sisters. These are the books that were taken out of the Bible. You need to get your hands on them, because you'll learn a lot. Believe me. This is, we're going to go to the Apocrypha, the book of Tobit, the 7th chapter, and we're going to read about a gentleman here, Tobias, who had an unfortunate incident and became blind because some pigeons boo-booed in his eyes and blinded him, and he had a son, Tobias. And he sent Tobias on a journey into another country to get some money that was owed him and so forth, and subsequently an angel called Raphael entered into the picture, and he appeared to them as a man, as angels do, and he became known to them as Azarias, right? And so he's going to travel with Tobias to this place to get this money, but also to get him a wife, okay? And he's going to run into this land to meet some more of his relatives, Raguel and Sarah, and their daughter, because her mother's name was Edna. And he's going to get there and realize that Sarah has previously had 7 husbands espoused to her, but they were all killed by a demon who was in love with this woman. You need to read this, and this is in the Bible, the part that they took out, but we picking it back up because it's going to show you something about the law of Moses, the covenant of marriage, and all of this, and it's going to fall in line with what we've read thus far. So when you get there, we're going to first start reading at verse 6, skip to 8 and read to 11, then skip to 13 and read to 14. So when you get to verse 6, read that one verse and then skip to 8.
Then Raguel leaped up and kissed him.
He was glad to see him. This was his relative. He was happy to see his boy. Go ahead. Skip to verse 8.
And likewise Edna, his wife, and Sarah, his daughter, wept.
They were both glad and happy to see this. This was a relative that hadn't seen this boy, and they was like, oh man, they were weeping. It was just tears of joy. Go ahead.
Moreover, they entertained him cheerfully. And after that, they had killed a ram of the flock. They set store of meat on the table.
So they're getting ready to eat. They rejoice. And when people are happy, most of the time they eat, brothers and sisters. So this is the same. This has been going on a long time. Ain't nothing new. But continue to read this.
Then said Tobias to Raphael.
Now here's Tobias talking to Raphael, because a lot happened before they got to this point. I can't tell you the whole story, but a big fish, a huge fish, came up and almost devoured Tobias, and the angel Raphael told him to kill this fish and take the inward parts, because they were going to use this inward part when it's mixed with certain things and burn it. It will run this demon away, and Raphael then could bind this demon, and he could freely marry, that is, Tobias married Sarah without any problems when he went into her bedchamber. Okay, but anyway, this is what he's going to tell Raphael. Look, man, speak to them and let them know that, about this thing. Go ahead. So start it over again and read that.
Then said Tobias to Raphael.
This is the angel, Raphael. Go ahead.
Brother Azarias, speak of those things of which those didst talk in the way, and let this business be dispatched.
Go ahead.
So he communicated the matter with Raguel. And Raguel said to Tobias, eat and drink and make merry.
Go ahead.
For it is meet that thou shouldest marry my daughter.
So he said, it is good that you should marry my daughter. And I understand what you're saying about this situation and whatnot. So, okay, but we're just going to eat and drink and make merry, man. I'm not going to worry about that just yet. And so he took to heart what they told him about. They was telling him about this demon and how they was going to deal with him and whatnot. Okay, but nevertheless, keep reading.
Nevertheless, I will declare unto thee the truth.
So he was compelled to tell them this thing about his daughter and the mishap she had with these 7 previous husbands of hers. Go ahead.
I have given my daughter in marriage to 7 men.
Wait a minute. I have given my daughter to have sex with 7 men. Did he say that? Did he say that?
No.
No, he didn't say that, brothers and sisters. He said, I've given my daughter in marriage to these 7 men. So he's telling him about these 7 husbands of his daughter. He didn't say all 7 of them had sex with his daughter. They were married first, brothers and sisters. Here's another example of that. Marriage before sex. And he's going to tell them that, they came into her by night, into what? Her bedchamber. And they all died before they had sex with her. But they were still her what? Her husband. They were espoused to her. They were her husband. And she was their wives. None of them had sex with her, though. This is what we're reading here. So start it again and read that.
I had given my daughter in marriage to 7 men.
He's telling them that. Go ahead.
Who died that night they came in unto her.
Into her bedchambers. Go ahead.
Nevertheless, for the present, be merry.
Be merry. He said, nevertheless, y'all, we just going to eat and stuff and be merry. But I was compelled to tell you that. My daughter done had 7 husbands, man, and they all died the night they went into her bedchamber. Okay? That's what time it is. He just had to tell. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and start and finish reading.
But Tobias said, I will eat nothing here till we agree and swear one to another.
Wait a minute. He said he's not going to eat anything until he agreed that we come with this agreement. He didn't say he's not going to eat nothing until I take her in the room and have sex with her first and try her out. Did he say that?
No.
No. This is how the Hebrews dealt with marriage, brothers and sisters. It's only these modern day Hebrews that switched this thing around and made it terrible. It's just awful. When you go back and you read the ancients, they tell you, according to the law of Moses and the word of God, how marriage is supposed to be handled and what establishes two people being married, husband and wife, that is. Male and female, that is. Okay? He said, I'm not going to eat nothing until we agree. Here's that agreement. And swear. Remember that. Go ahead. To one another, meaning they're going to enter into a covenant, but something else is going to take place here. Keep reading.
13.
Skip down to verse 13 and read 13 and 14.
Then he called his daughter Sarah.
This is her father, Raguel. He's calling his daughter Sarah. For what? Go ahead.
And she came to her father. And he took her by the hand and gave her to be wife to Tobias.
Wait a minute. Just wait a minute, brothers and sisters. He didn't say, hey, wait a minute. Take her in the room then and check out Tobias, and then come out and let me know if you want to marry her. That ain't what happened, brothers and sisters. When they agreed, he then handed her to Tobias. This is your wife, brother. That's the deal they made, the agreement, the arrangement. They swore this. This is what we're reading. They entered into a covenant. He was espoused to her, and she was espoused to him. They were husband and wife. Had not touched one another. No sex is involved here. Okay? And something else is going to take place here. Continue to read.
Saying, behold, take her after the law of Moses.
Now we're going to show you the law of Moses. We're going to read it very clearly to you. It's going to be crystal clear, and it's going to shock some of you. Okay? Because this has always been in the law of Moses. But you got these elders that don't teach the way that they should, and subsequently people just get the wrong thing and they just run with things that ain't accurate. But he said, take her according to the law of Moses. Go ahead and finish reading.
And lead her away to thy father. And he blessed them.
He what?
Blessed them.
He blessed them. Have they had sex yet?
No.
No. Go ahead.
And he called Edna his wife.
Now this is Sarah's mother. And now it's Tobias' mother-in-law. What is she going to do? Go ahead.
And took paper. And did write an instrument of covenants and sealed it.
She wrote out a contract of marriage, brothers and sisters, the agreement. They were espoused as husband and wife. This is, in a sense, a marriage, like a marriage license. It's a contract. That's what a marriage license is, isn't it? Same thing. This is the law of Moses. And I'm quite sure for some of these people out here that love to talk about polygamy, you got a man with 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 wives. He don't have no marriage license, no covenant in writing for each one of these women.
No.
Because he can't be lawfully married to but one of them according to the law of Moses, which ought to tell you something about polygamy. It's a huge stumbling block. I just want to put that in there for some of you who really get off into something that the Lord ain't with. But anyway, this sex established this marriage between Tobias and Sarah. Did it establish marriage between our father Adam and our mother Eve?
No.
What about Jacob, Leah, and Rachel?
No.
Had nothing to do with that. What about the mother of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph?
No.
It had nothing to do with legitimizing marriage with these essential people we just spoke about. No. Sex did not constitute or establish anything.
They were all called wife prior to them laying with each other.
All that simple. And you haven't paid attention to this. And it's been in this Bible all this time. But we're going to continue and move on and read about this further. We're going to take a look at something here in Deuteronomy 22. We're going to go to the 13th verse and read down to the 19th, because this is a damsel who was a virgin and was given by her father to a man. He married this man's daughter. Then he claimed that she wasn't a virgin and tried to get rid of her. So because I've heard people go in here and mess this up. It's very clear what came first. What establishes a marriage? There has to be an agreement. And typically in the days of old, you had to include her father or someone in her family, be it a male, that was over this household, and this girl happened to be a part of it. And then in the old days, you had to pay. You don't understand that, but it's in the law. But in any case, let's read about this situation here with this damsel and what this man tried to pull. Because the Hebrews had ways to prove if a woman was a virgin, and we're gonna read about that. So when you get to 13, chapter 22 of Deuteronomy, verse 13 to the 19. When you get 13, read.
If any man take a wife.
Wait a minute. If any man have sex with a woman.
No.
It didn't say that, did it? So right here in the Old Testament, in the law, we reading what comes first. What established, we already know that. But he said, if any man take what?
A wife.
It always comes first, brothers and sisters. You get married first. Go ahead.
And go in.
And then afterwards, do what? Read it.
And go in unto her.
And go in unto her after she's your wife, brothers and sisters. The Lord, nowhere in the law promoted fornication. Adultery. That's a form of fornication as well. None of this of being a whoremonger, running from one woman to another. The Lord don't promote that, but that's what you've been telling people when you say sex. Having sex with somebody establishes a marriage, and they run around and sleep with 4 or 5 women. No, you are promoting fornication. This is what you've been doing. Continue to read that.
And hate her.
So this man take a wife, and he go in unto her, having sex with her, and humble her. Then he turn around and he hates her now after he done had sex with her. He don't want her. Go ahead.
And give occasions of speech against her.
And then start talking about, probably calling her a slut or a whore or something. Just talking about the woman. Okay, let's continue the story.
And bringing up an evil name upon her.
He just messed up her name, but he messed up her name. He messed up her daddy's name as well. And this father in this particular instance ain't gonna have this. Her mother ain't gonna have it either. He's lying on this woman, and we're going to find that out. Go ahead.
And say, I took this woman, and when I came to her,
go ahead.
I found her not a maid.
So he said she was not a virgin. This woman lied to me, and I messed around and married her, and I went and had sex with her afterwards, and hey, she wasn't no virgin. No, I don't want this woman, and she's a harlot. You know, he's talking about this. Okay, but continue the story.
Then shall the father of the damsel and her mother bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity unto the elders of the city in the gate.
So they got evidence that she was a virgin after he went in unto her. Go ahead.
And the damsel's father shall say unto the elders, I gave my daughter unto this man to wife.
No, he said he gave his daughter to this man to have sex with first. That ain't what we just read, brothers and sisters. So here's another instance here where this father is telling you that he gave his daughter to this man to wife. They were espoused to one another. Ain't no sex involved here. Now after this, the sex comes. And go ahead.
And hated her.
So after he had laid with her, he hated her. Go ahead.
And lo, he hath given occasion of speech against her, saying, I found not thy daughter a maid, and yet these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity.
So they got proof. Now let's read about this proof. Go ahead and read.
And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city.
This cloth had what on it, brothers and sisters? Blood to prove her virginity. And in this case, that was the case. Continue to read.
And the elders of the city shall take that man and chastise him.
Chastise him? They whooped him. This all it means. Because this man is trying to pull one here, and the elders the elders of Israel didn't play that at this particular time right here. They don't deal with you breaching the covenant of marriage and then polluting or breaking a young sister down and taking her virginity and then try to use her and then call her a slut and all. No, they didn't play that. Continue to read.
and they shall immerse him in 100 shekels of silver.
And then he's going to pay for this, lying on his sister. trying to get out of being her husband. Go ahead.
And give them unto the father of the damsel, because he hath brought up an evil name upon a virgin of Israel.
Israel didn't play that, brothers and sisters. They didn't play that. Go ahead.
And she shall be his wife.
She shall be what?
His wife.
She gonna remain your wife. You're not getting out of this, mister, with telling a lie on this woman. Because she was, remember, given if a man take a wife. So she was his wife from Jump Street. So that's confirmed that this is your wife, mister. This is what they telling this man. Go ahead. And the elders telling them this. It's a shame that our elders today don't do that. They don't do it. They have you believe you can go out and sleep with 4 or 5 women and you got 5 wives. This ain't what the law of Moses says, brothers and sisters. Then this is on you because you don't read. You just listen to what people tell you and just run with it. But go ahead.
And may not put her away all his days.
All his days. I mean, as long as he lived.
So he wasn't able to give a bill of divorce.
No, in no way. But as long as this man,
that was his punishment.
This is his wife. And if we catch you with somebody else, we're going to do more than whoop you this time. We're going to stone you. But this is what's going to happen to this man if he continues to try to get out of this thing. But did sex establish her as his wife or him as her husband? It didn't. Brothers and sisters, I'm quite sure you can see that clearly by now. You can see, you've been reading all the stuff we've been reading to you for years and didn't pay no attention to this. Sex don't establish nobody as being no husband and wife. And this is just honest to God truth. This is what the scriptures say. This is what the law of Moses says. Anyway, let's move on. Let's take another look at this. We're going to take a look at, since I mentioned it, we're going to take a look at a fornicator. Because when you tell a man he can sleep with 4 or 5 women and all of them his wife, you done just rule out fornication. You just threw it in the garbage. There ain't no such thing as fornication. This is what you're doing. Ain't no such thing as whoremongering. That's not true. This stuff is written in the Bible, and you shouldn't be labeled as a fornicator or a whoremonger or an idolater. They all are hooked up, intertwined with one another, brothers and sisters. And adultery as well. Okay? Because there's some kinds of fornication is a form of adultery. In any case, when you get to Ephesians 5, we're going to read 3 to the 5. And when you get to the 3rd verse, read, because Paul is saying something here to these Ephesians. Go ahead.
But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you, as becometh saints.
As becometh saints. Don't let no fornicator be among you. Don't you be no fornicator if you calling yourself a saint of Christ. This is what this is telling you here. Go ahead.
Neither filthiness.
What's filthiness? Being a fornicator. Being unclean in that sense. Sexually. Having sex all over the place. This is what he's telling you here. You're filthy. Go ahead.
Nor foolish talking, nor jesting.
What's foolish talking? Telling a man he can go out there and have sex with 5 or 6 women in 5 or 6 different places and all of them his. Ain't that foolish talking? That ain't according to the law. But this is what people tell you you can do, and that's not the law, brothers and sisters. It's not even written in the book. Go ahead.
Which are not convenient.
Go ahead.
But rather giving of thanks. For this ye know, that no whoremonger.
I don't think people really know this, but read that again. It said, for this ye know, but the people with some understanding and the people who fear the Lord, okay, the God of Israel, they know this. And it said, for this ye know, go ahead.
That no whoremonger.
No whoremonger, we're going to look that word up.
Nor unclean person.
A whoremonger is an unclean person, go ahead.
Nor covetous man.
And he's covetous as well.
Who is an idolater.
And he's an idolater as well, including a fornicator. He's all these things as well. Go ahead.
Hath any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God.
You should keep that in mind, because that is the absolute Bible truth. You're not going to get into the kingdom of God. The righteous, where the righteous are going to dwell. You're not going to be there. You're not going to be amongst them. Because you're filthy. This is what this says.
It's saying.
This is what Paul is telling you. But we're going to move on and further look at this. Let's go to Hebrews 13. and read something, because we've just proven to you beyond any doubt, sex does not constitute marriage. Having sex does not constitute marriage. I can't say that enough, because many of you have been lied to and have been told that is what constitutes and establishes marriage. Not in the Bible, not in this Bible we're reading out of. No, not according to the law of Moses. And who gave Moses the law? Didn't Christ give it to him? The Lord, the God of Israel, gave Moses the law. So it ain't according to him. So who's making this stuff up? You need to think about that, because it is made up. And you haven't read once. And there are many other examples besides the ones we're going to show you that you can read on your own, and you ain't going to find that. Sex does not constitute or establish marriage, brothers and sisters. Go ahead, and we're going to read this one verse, Hebrews 4. This is going to tell you something. We was reading about whoremongers and fornicators, right? But let's continue to read this and pick up something else here. Read that verse 4.
Marriage is honorable in all.
In all, meaning a man espoused to a woman and a woman espoused to a man. That's an honorable thing. Go ahead.
And the bed undefiled.
The marriage bed of this honorable marriage is undefiled. But, continue to read.
But whoremongers and adulterers God will judge.
God will judge whoremongers and adulterers, brothers and sisters. And nobody really reads this. When you get to talking about being espoused as husband and wife, and you breach that for a reckless reason, being a fornicator or an adulterer and all of that, you're gonna have to, the Lord's gonna deal with you. He's gonna judge you. And nobody is telling you this. Marriage is nothing to be playing with.
So basically, when it says marriage is honorable in all and the bed undefiled, that means if you have sex without marriage, then it would be defiled.
That's correct. Absolutely correct. You have sex before marriage, that bed is defiled, brothers and sisters.
And it's so fornication.
Exactly. And nobody's telling you this. Nobody's trying to explain. It's simple. This is right before you. This is not complicated. This has been here as long as you've been reading that Bible, and many of you have read this, but never try to break this down that way. It's just rational thinking. It's just simplicity at its best. The Lord tells you about his simplicity. It's not complicated. If you have sex before marriage, that bed that you slept in with that partner, be it man or woman, vice versa, is defiled. This is what this is telling you. Mm-hmm. And nobody is telling, the elders ain't reading this to you. The teachers in some of these Hebrew camps is not even speaking about this. And that's a shame. We're going to look up a word. We defined some words earlier. Now let's go back to the Strong's Bible Concordance. We're going to go to the Greek section in 3432. And we're going to look up the word adulterer. We're going to see what this word means, and we're going to read the definition of it. Strong's Bible Concordance 3432, the word translated adulterer. And the word is?
The word is moikos.
Okay, and it means?
Perhaps a primary word.
So adulterer is this. Go ahead.
A male paramour.
A male paramour. Go ahead.
Figuratively, apostate. Adulterer.
Adulterer. So he said an adulterer is a male paramour. And this is why these elders in some of these Hebrew Israelite camps is always telling the woman she can't this, and the man telling him this. So this is why this definition is really focused on a male paramour, because men are the ones that start doing this foolishness, and they have to make the woman accept it. And this is why it's keying in on you. What is a paramour? Well, let's define paramour. Let's stay in the Strong's Bible Concordance, and we're going to look up this word paramour. We're going to go to 6370, okay, in the Hebrew section. And we're going to define this word paramour and see what it means. And it's going to lead you someplace that you don't want to be, brothers and sisters. This is not, we started with adultery, did we not? It led us to paramour. Now, we in the Strongs again, the Hebrew section 6370. What does paramour mean? Well, first of all, what's the word?
The word is pilegesh.
Okay, what does it mean?
Of uncertain derivative, a concubine, also masculine, a paramour.
So a paramour is a male concubine. You didn't know you had male concubines. You only thought they were females. No, we got male concubines too. And this is proof of that right here. That's what a paramour is. But we're going to pursue this a little further. We're going to now take another look at this word, paramour. We're going to go into the Concise Oxford Dictionary, 1951 edition. And we're going to go to page 863. And we're going to look up the word paramour and see what it means according to this Oxford Dictionary 1951 meaning. The word paramour. And this is all connected, brothers and sisters. One word led us to another word, led us to another word, but we still looking at this word paramour. Now, what does it mean in the Oxford? Page 863. Paramour.
Paramour. Illicit partner.
Illicit?
Illicit.
That means unlawful, brothers and sisters. Unlawful according to who? The law of Moses. Ain't that what we talking about? We read the Bible. So that's the law that it's unlawful, forbidden a paramour to have one. That's what it's telling you, ain't it? Go ahead.
Illicit partner of married man or woman.
And so a paramour is an illicit, unlawful, or forbidden partner of a married man or woman. And it's another word attached to this, but we don't need to read that. A paramour is also a concubine, brothers and sisters. Ought to let you know something. But you don't look up nothing, and you can't trace these things down to understand that, hey, something is wrong with this, because this said illicit. That's unlawful. To a partner of a married man or a woman. So if a man has a lawfully wedded wife, can he have a paramour?
No.
Absolutely not. He can't. But you've been told that you can. And more than one. You see now that that's not the case. So anyway, let's move further. We're going to go into another dictionary, the Webster's New International Dictionary, 2nd edition, copyright 1934. I want you to understand that this is a very old dictionary, and we're going to look up adulterer. We looked it up earlier in the Strongs.
Adultery.
We're going to look up two words. We're going to look up adulterer, because we read that in the scriptures, and it's going to lead us to adultery, because we need to define what that is. And this is, like I say, Webster's New International Dictionary, 2nd edition, copyright 1934, page 37. Let's look at the word adulterer and read what it means there.
One, especially a man who commits adultery.
Well, he got to be married then, right? This is what an adulterer is also, a married man. How do you commit adultery if you're married? You're sleeping with a paramour. If you're a man, you're sleeping with a female concubine, brothers and sisters. If you're a woman, you're sleeping with a paramour, a male paramour. And it's illicit. It's unlawful and forbidden. Isn't that what we read? But you're not looking none of this stuff up. Now skip down, same page, 39. Look at the word, let's look at the word since we're here. Look at the word adultery. And we're going to read number 1. And read the definition of adultery.
Sexual unfaithfulness.
Whoa. Sexual what?
Unfaithfulness.
Unfaithfulness, brothers and sisters. Go ahead.
Of a married person.
Of a married person. One who has been espoused to a woman who's been espoused to a man. They are married. And this is, if you have sex with anybody outside of that union, that covenant, it's unfaithfulness. And you are doing this. Keep reading.
Voluntary sexual intercourse by a married man with another another than his wife.
Okay.
Or by a married woman with another than her husband.
This is what adultery is. Isn't that simple?
Mm-hmm.
This is unfaithfulness, unlawful or forbidden, brothers and sisters. Once you enter into that covenant with your wife, you can't have nobody else. But the elders of Israel ain't telling you this. Mm-hmm. They're telling you everything but this. But you're not taking the time to save your soul, to read this stuff for yourself, because it's on you. You're going to be standing there and you have to answer these questions. Why didn't you look at this? I had it out. I had all the information everywhere. Or the Lord tell you to seek and you shall find. You stopped seeking. You took a man's word over mine. And that's why I'm punishing you now. And the punishment that the Lord is going to give a lot of people, they ain't going to want it, brothers and sisters, because it's forever. And they don't want what I'm talking about. But nevertheless, you see what an adulterer is. A married person voluntarily having sexual intercourse with one other than his wife, or if it's a woman other than her husband. So anyway, if you keep reading, I'm going to keep reading something in here. It says, the act of illicit intercourse being fornication on the part of the unmarried participator. That's what it says also. And you got to understand that fornication is involved in this too. I told you there's a form of adultery that's considered fornication as well. And it's right here in this definition. And this is a very old definition. Okay, and as you keep reading, it'll start talking to you about the Jewish law. And it constituted a criminal adultery. But we ain't going to get into that. It's not necessary. You need to do some research. In other words, you need to define these words. So we're going to look. Now, we're going to continue. We mentioned earlier, whoremonger. What's a whoremonger? Let's look up whoremonger. Let's define that. We're going to go back to the Strong's Bible Concordance. And we're going to go to 4205 in the Greek section. And we're going to look up the word translated whoremonger. And when you get there, what's the word?
Porno.
And that we get that word. Where do you think you get pornography from, brothers and sisters? That right there will let you know this is not a good thing. That's where the word pornography comes from. Pornos. Go ahead.
Pornos from
Pernimi.
To sell akin to the base of 4097.
What is he talking about? Sell what? We're talking about a man and a woman here selling something. Sell what? The next line is going to tell you what they're selling. Go ahead.
A male prostitute.
What does a prostitute sell? His body, sex, sexual favors. Be it a man or a woman, brothers and sisters. Go ahead.
As vino. By analogy.
And that vino means one ready to sell influences and services or to sacrifice principles for sordid motives. Okay? This is this disgusting sexual foolishness you got on in mind. That's what this vino means. Go ahead. By analogy.
A debauchee.
A debauchee means a libertine. And a libertine is, guess what? A free thinker. A person who does as he or she pleases. Okay? That's what a libertine is. And we got a whole lot of Hebrew Israelites, and that's what they are when they listen to these elders and tell them they can go out here and sleep with 4, 5, and 6 people.
And that kind of reminds me back in the late 60s how they were libertines.
Exactly right.
Free sex.
Exactly
and free
right.
love and all of that stuff going on.
That's right, brothers and sisters. This ain't nothing new. It's old. And you're still dealing with, but only it's in the church. But it's been there all along. Now, did you finish that? It says, and go ahead.
A libertine, fornicator, whoremonger.
A fornicator, same thing, brothers and sisters. But is this good, being a whoremonger? God said a whoremonger, God is going to judge you. We read that in Hebrews. And you seem to think that he's not telling the truth when he said he's going to judge adulterers and whoremongers. Yes, he's going to do that, brothers. And take him at his word. He don't lie. He's going to do that. So now we're going to go right back into one more place. We're going to go into the Concise Oxford Dictionary, and we're going to just look at the word fornication. All right? And we're going to put a conclusion to defining these words. But I wanted to give you the clearest picture possible as to the meaning of these words by looking them up, and you can get a clear picture and a clear meaning of how important they were as they are used in the book, warning you not to be like this. Because the Lord is going to judge you. In any case, I want you to go to page 470, word fornication, and read what that meaning is in the Concise Oxford Dictionary, the 1951 edition, and the word fornication, and read the meaning of that word. When you get there, read.
Fornication. Voluntary sexual intercourse between man.
So ain't nobody making this man do this, or this woman, if you will. This is you voluntarily doing this, meaning that you're committing a sin voluntarily. You're willfully sinning here. And many of you are doing this in these Hebrew camps, and the elders ain't trying to tell you and show you what we're showing you today to stop this before your God deals with you. Anyway, it's voluntary sexual intercourse between man. Go ahead.
Occasionally restricted to unmarried men and unmarried women.
You ain't got no business doing this. That's what fornication is, and we're going to continue. We're going to now move on, because we know that when you get out here in the world and you voluntarily commit this sin and you fornicate and you're a whoremonger and whatnot, sometimes children are born from this illicit union you having with this unlawful person that you're sleeping with when you're married already. And we're going to read a little bit about that in the Apocrypha, and we're going to go to the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 3. And we're going to read 9 and 10, and then we're going to skip to 12 and 13, and then we're going to skip to 16, and read a little bit about these offsprings that are produced from the unions in defiled beds, brothers and sisters. We're going to read a little bit. And like I said, the Apocrypha is part of the Bible. They took it out, but it's still good. It's the Word of God. And you should pick it up. It's the 14 books that they took out. And this happened to be one of them, the Wisdom of Solomon. So when you get your wisdom, start reading in verse 9. Chapter 3.
They that put their trust in him shall understand the truth.
You put your trust in the Lord, you will know and understand the truth. Go ahead.
And such shall be faithful in love shall abide with him.
That's right. Go ahead.
For grace and mercy is to his saints.
It's not to or with whoremongers and fornicators and idolaters, brothers and sisters. This is the difference here. I want you to understand that. Go ahead.
And he hath care for his elect.
For his elect, not for whoremongers and fornicators and idolaters, brothers and sisters. I want you to understand that. Go ahead.
But the ungodly shall be punished.
Who the ungodly?
Whoremongers.
The whoremongers, the one that's sleeping in unlawful beds. Defiled, they just sleep in defiled beds. These are the ungodly. Go ahead. They shall be what?
Punished according to their own imagination.
Didn't we read that in the definition about he's selling it has something to do with a person being vile and having these thoughts and whatnot and selling himself for this stuff. People, you got to pay attention. It says he had sordid motives. This is a vile person here. We read that in one of the definitions. Go ahead.
Which have neglected the righteous and forsaken the Lord.
You're forsaken the Lord. Skip down to verse 12 and continue this.
Their wives are foolish, and their children wicked.
And their children are wicked. Go ahead.
Their offspring is cursed.
They're cursed when you have children out of wedlock, sleeping in these unlawful and defiled beds, brothers and sisters. These children are cursed. We just read this anyway, right? This is not me. I'm just reading this to you because you need to understand this. Okay? Go ahead and finish this.
Wherefore blessed is the barren that is undefiled.
How can a woman barren be defiled? She's barren. She can't have no kids, so she's blessed in that case. Go ahead.
Which have not known the sinful bed.
Go ahead. A sinful bed. There we go. Give this defiled bed. Go ahead.
she shall have fruit in the visitation of souls.
Go ahead. Skip to 16. Let's finish this.
As for the children of adulterers.
As for the children of adulterers. Go ahead.
They shall not come to their perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And the seed of an unrighteous bed shall be rooted out.
Why would you bring forth fruit, okay, or your seed through a woman in an unrighteous manner when you know the Lord is going to root it out of the earth? You shouldn't do that, but this is what people have been doing for centuries. And this is why you have a lot of problems on this earth even to today, and it'll continue to happen because this is not going to stop until the Lord come in and correct this whole thing. But at the same time, we're giving you people who have and want to serve the Lord, and we're trying to inspire you to possess the will to seek the truth further, especially this. We've shown you enough about this thus far to let you know clearly that having sex does not constitute marriage. When you have it outside of marriage, your seed is unrighteous and it's going to be rooted out of this life.
You're dealing with a defiled bed.
That's right. You're dealing with a defiled bed, as Sister Teresa said. We can read this. Anyway, let's go now. Skip right over to the Apocryphal Wisdom. We're going to stay in wisdom, the wisdom of Solomon, and we're going to go to chapter 4. Read verses 1, then skip to 3, and then 5 and 6. When you get to 1, we're going to continue to read about these unlawful offspring that are born out of wedlock and come from unholy unions. Okay, fornication,
defiled beds,
and these defiled beds and whatnot. Let's get to 1. Read that. Start reading at verse 1.
Better it is to have no children.
They just said be barren. The barren woman is blessed because she ain't got to worry about what's going to happen to her if she make a mistake like this. And this is confirming that even better. Better is it to have no children than and go ahead.
And to have virtue.
And to have virtue. Go ahead.
For the memorial thereof is immortal.
So to have virtue, the memorial of a virtuous woman, a virtuous man, is immortal. And it's just the opposite for someone who is doing unlawful acts and being a fornicator and a whoremonger and idolater. It's just the opposite for those people, brothers and sisters, sleeping in unlawful beds, bringing forth unlawful offspring. Defiled offspring, if you will. Go ahead and finish this.
Because it is known with God and with man.
That's correct. Anyway, skip to 3 and start there and read.
But the multiplying brood
go ahead.
of the ungodly.
So all these ungodly children, they call them a brood. Brood. It's like the word brutish. What does that mean? You need to look that word up. Brutish. Okay, but this is a multiplying brood of the ungodly. Go ahead.
Shall not thrive.
Shall not thrive, brother. You don't want to bring in on no children or no child. Why you keep sleeping in these unlawful situations and unholy? Come on, brothers and sisters. But we're reading this to you so you can show other people not to be this way. Okay? Go ahead.
Nor take deep rooting from bastard ships. Slips.
This meaning bastard. What we talking? Children. They're bastards when they're unlawfully brought forth. Go ahead.
Nor lay any fast foundation.
Go ahead. Skip to 5 and 6 and read that.
The imperfect branches.
These imperfect branches are children, brothers and sisters. The brood, the unlawful brood that we talked about, the multiplying brood or the bastard slips. We're still talking about children here, born out of unlawful unions, sleeping in these defiled beds, if you will. Go ahead. The imperfect branch, because they're imperfect. Okay?
Shall be broken off.
You're not going to prosper. They're not going to prosper. They're going to have it hard. And you don't have them to blame. You can't blame them. This is on the parents. And it's going to tell you this. Go ahead.
Their fruit unprofitable, not right to eat, yea, meat for nothing.
Meat for nothing. I mean, that word meat, you define, it means good.
For nothing.
Good for nothing. You're going tell me you are willing to keep bringing children in this life and have them labeled as good for nothing children? That's your fault, and you're going to pay for that. Just like Laban, I told you, paid for his deception of Jacob. The Lord killed him for that. You can read that if you look hard enough. But I'm telling you here in this instance right here, hey, these children, these unlawful children, they're good for nothing. The Lord is telling us this, is he not? Mm-hmm. We're not making this up. You shouldn't do this. And if you have, pray. Keep praying. The Lord may hear and have mercy. You can always pray for his mercy. And he's all, his mercy endures for how long? Forever. So, but don't keep doing it and think you can keep praying. And no, you have to stop this type of conduct. But finish reading this. He said, meat good for nothing. Go ahead.
For children begotten of unlawful bed.
Now pay attention to this, brothers and sisters. I want you to read this over. This telling you about these children we've been reading about. But I want to read this again and pay attention to this because this is not good. Go ahead.
For children begotten of unlawful beds are witness of wickedness against their parents on their trial.
They are witnesses against the wickedness of the parents in their trial. Well, when is a parent going to be tried by God? After you leave, brothers and sisters, or you die, it's talking about you standing in judgment and you are going to be found guilty because it's giving you all the attributes of what a guilty person has to deal with. And if you are bringing forth this brood of these unlawful children begotten out of unlawful beds via fornication and whoremongering and all of this stuff, fornication, brothers and sisters, this is you. So we're going to continue to move on. You're going to be weighed in the balances and found one. You don't want that. You don't want to go on trial for doing something like this. But the Lord said, whoremongers and adulterers, he will what? Judge. And we're constantly proving this here. So we're going to go move on. We're going to go to 1 Corinthians 7 and read 1 to 9. Let's read something here and see if we can get some understanding, continually trying to really expose what fornication is, because people have done away with fornication. These Hebrew Israelites, some of them, not all the camps, because all of them don't teach what's wrong. You got a lot of them teach what's right, but you got some that don't do that, and they tell you that you can go out here and sleep with a woman on Saturday, and then sleep with another woman Saturday night, and then Sunday morning sleep with another, and they're all your wives. The Bible don't promote this. Because you slept with them, you had sex with them, they became your. No, they're not your wives, and you are not their husband, brother. Sister, he's not your husband if you've done this. That would mean you would have 3 or 4 different husbands if you slept with 3 or 4 different men. How? Come on, is that lawful? Is that the law of Moses? You're not thinking. But you let people tell you this, and you run with it.
And I have heard of women who absolutely, by going by this fallacy here, they trick men into being their husbands. That's and they end up having to do a shotgun wedding.
Yeah.
Because, well, I slept with you last night, you my husband. No.
And not once has a shotgun wedding worked that you know about. They have them in these Hebrew Israelite camps. Not one of them lasted. Because when you force somebody to do something, they look at every moment to get out of it. They didn't do it willfully. Like we looked at here in the Bible, they had an agreement.
Ahead of time.
They were espoused to one another. They both agreed and so forth. It wasn't that kind of a wedding. Shotgun, they were forced to do it. Anytime you force a man or a woman to do something they don't want to do, they're looking every day to get out of it. And they don't last. Just look around. Think about it, okay? But anyway, we're going to read this. Start at the 1 Corinthians 7. Start at the 1 and read. We're going to read down to the 9 and pick up something else about this.
Now concerning the things whereof ye wrote unto me.
So they're writing to Paul, asking him about something. Go ahead and see what it is.
It is good for a man not to touch a woman.
Paul was celibate. He didn't have no problem with, being that way. This is a good thing. And if you can abstain and be like me and have the willpower and so forth, that's a good thing. But all men and all women are not like this. He understood that as well. But go ahead.
Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife.
So he said, now pay attention to what. See, they don't read this stuff.
No.
This tells you right here which one comes first.
Mm-hmm.
Which one establishes. He says, nevertheless, to avoid fornication, which you'll be judged by God. We read that. Let every man have his own what?
Wife.
That means that comes before sex, brothers and sisters. You get married. That's what he's telling you. And then he continued to read it.
Let every woman have her own husband.
Be espoused to one another first. Married.
To avoid
fornication, because he's telling you this for a reason. Continue to read.
Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence.
Due benevolence. You belong to one another now, not to yourself. Go ahead.
And likewise also the wife unto the husband.
Mm-hmm.
The wife hath not power over her own body, but the husband. And likewise also the husband hath not power of his own body, but the wife.
Look. It says that you are one. Marriage establishes you as being one flesh.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have power over yourself. No. And he's gonna further explain this to you. We're not gonna get too deep in this, but this is self-explanatory if you understand. He said, defraud. Read the next line.
Defraud ye not
one another,
the other, except it be for consent for a time, that ye may give yourself to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your inconsistency.
He's just telling you that, hey, when the wife has that urge and it comes on her, give in, and vice versa. You don't belong to each one another. In other words, you're not single anymore. You don't have that single mindset. You think alike, and everything comes to you as a union. So you have to basically be spontaneous to one another and so forth, and not defraud one another of this, because this is something God made and put in us, and sometimes we can't control it. But when you are married, you're free to exercise this thing, and it's a holy thing. This is what this is telling you. This ain't about no single thing like where you dating somebody. No. This is about a married thing here. So you have to, because it say to avoid fornication, let a man get a wife, let a wife get a husband. Did it say that? We're talking about marriage here. So anyway, continue to read this.
But I speak this by permission and not of commandment.
Go ahead.
For I would that all men were even as I myself.
If you have the power, the staying power to be like me, celibate, then cool. I wish that all men could be like this, because it's less problems when I'm like that. I don't have to be bothered with worrying about none of this. I can concentrate on just serving the Lord and preaching and this and the other. This is what he's telling you here, but all men are not like that. Go ahead, nor women. Go ahead.
But every man hath his proper gift of God.
And this is why all people can't be like Paul. You've been given different gifts, brothers and sisters, and they all ain't alike. Go ahead.
One after this manner, and another after that.
Go ahead.
I say therefore to the unmarried and widows.
Now he's talking to the unmarried and the widows. Go ahead.
It is good for them if they abide even as I.
You abstain. It's good that I abstain, so if you can do this, it's good. Go ahead.
But if they cannot
if you cannot contain, meaning you don't have the staying power, the willpower, what did he say?
Let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn.
In the lake of fire. He's talking about burning in the lake of fire. So he's telling you, brothers and sisters, if you cannot contain or exercise some restraint or self-control, or be tempered in this thing, and these sexual urges come upon you, and you can't control it. He said, this is what you do. Did he say go get a woman and have sex? Did he tell a sister go get a man and have sex? No! What did Paul say? And we read that in the law as well. He said, let him marry first. Okay, that's what it says?
That's what it says.
For it is better to marry first than to burn, brothers and sisters. Because if you are a whoremonger or adulterer or a fornicator, God is going to judge you for this. Okay? We're going to go on and go back to the book of Joshua and pick up another story that I wanted to add to this. And we're going to read about another situation. We're going to read about Prince Shechem and Jacob's daughter Dina. Okay? And something that Shechem did to this sister when she was she went to the city and was watching the women of Shechem dance and you know, they was dancing about something, and she was just gonna go there and watch them, and something happened to her. It was perpetrated by this Prince Shechem, and we're gonna see if sex constituted or established marriage in this situation. Okay, when you get to we're gonna go to Joshua chapter 33, we're gonna read verse 7, skip to 10 and 11, then skip to 15 and 16, and then skip to 21 and 22. But we're going to take a look at this. We're going to examine this particular incident here. When you get to 7, read.
And Shechem, the son of Hamor, the prince of the land, was also standing there to see them.
So he's looking at all the women, okay? And something else pops up. He's looking and whatnot. The women are dancing and so forth, celebrating. Skip to 10 and read 10 and 11.
And Shechem beheld Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. And when he looked at her, his soul became fixed upon Dinah.
The man was mesmerized by this woman. She had to be a fine sister. Go ahead.
And he sent and had her taken by force.
Of her own free will?
No.
By force, brothers and sisters. Go ahead.
And Dinah came to the house of Shechem, and he seized her forcibly and lay with her and humbled her.
He raped this sister, had sex with her, and took her virginity. That's what that means, say he humbled her. He took her virginity. Because virginity was a precious thing, brother. It was virgins were honored amongst Israel. You didn't mess with them. So this man took her by force and humbled this sister. And this was the daughter of Jacob. And this sister at this time had 11 brothers. This is the wrong sister to be messing with. Go ahead and finish that.
And he loved her exceedingly and placed her in his house.
Now this man also loved her. That's a hell of a way to show your love, to take a woman by force and rape her. Okay, skip down to 15. We're going to read 15 and 16.
And Jacob knew moreover that Shechem had defiled his daughter.
He defiled her when he did this. He raped his sister. He defiled her, took her against her will. Go ahead.
But he said nothing. And his sons were feeding his cattle in the field.
Go ahead.
And Jacob remained silent till their return. And before his sons came home, Jacob sent 2 maidens from his servants' daughters to take care of Dinah.
Okay, go ahead.
In the house of Shechem, and to remain with her. And Shechem sent 3 of his friends to his house, to his father Hamor, the son of Kiddekem, the son of Pered.
Now he's sending word to his daddy. He wants his father to do something. Now what is that? Go ahead.
Get me this damsel for a wife.
Saying, get me this damsel for a wife. Wait a minute. I thought sex constituted marriage. This is Jacob. And his name was changed to Israel. So this is Israel here. And his sons, the children of Israel, that form the tribes of Israel. And you mean to tell me that sex did not constitute Dinah being Shechem's husband? That's what you've been taught. Sex constitutes marriage. Is that what we read here? Absolutely not, bro. This is another example. But what we're going to do, skip down to verse 21. Let's continue this. Read 21 and 22.
And they came and sat before their father, and they spoke unto him kindled with wrath.
Now, they were angry, and they're going to express their feelings to their daddy for this man doing this to their sister, for humbling her, for raping her and taking her by force, and then he held her in his house. Okay? But go ahead, continue this.
Surely death is due this man and to his household.
What? So one man's fornication, and I'm going to show you that it's also adultery. It's a form of that as well. We're going to read that. And it says that, hey, this man, okay, should die for doing this, and his household. One man's crime would cause him to die in his household. That's Israel didn't play, brothers and sisters. Go ahead.
Because the Lord God of the whole earth commanded Noah and his children that man shall never rob.
It said man. Mm-hmm. This went for all men, including the men of Shechem. Brothers and sisters, all men. Man shall never rob or what?
Not commit adultery.
Nor commit adultery. That meant all men, not just Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Now behold, Shechem hath both ravaged and committed fornication with our sister.
He committed fornication with their sister. He's ravaged her, raped her, against her will, took her sexually. It didn't make her his wife. We're going to further read that to you, kid. Continue to read.
And not one of all the people of the city spoke a word to him.
Not one of the people in the city tried to stop this man from abusing our sister. And he's going to tell you what they all deserve. We've already shown that and read that he deserved death, but not only him, his whole household, but something else is going to be added to that for this crime that this man committed against a daughter of Israel, a virgin of Israel. Go ahead, but it said in general, no man should do this. This went for all men, but go ahead. Surely, go ahead.
Surely thou knowest and understand that the judgment of death is due to Shechem.
It's due to him, go ahead.
And to his father.
Now he done got a death sentence on his father. And his father was upset with us. Man, all the women in our country, you mean to tell me you had to go mess with a Hebrew woman and all these women, all these beautiful women we got? Dude, why you do this? And his father told him that. You read further. But anyway, go ahead and continue that. So a death sentence has been passed on him by Jacob's sons, and now his daddy. Go ahead.
And to the whole city on account of the thing which he hath done.
So all the inhabitants of the city of Shechem, because they didn't lift a hand to try to stop this man from doing this to Jacob's daughter. The brothers were serious. They wasn't playing. Okay? So this man's fornication caused not only a father to die and him to die, but a whole city of people. And let's further look at this story. Skip right over to Joshua 34. We're going to read 1 verse 52. And we're going to pick up something else because Jacob was upset with Simeon and Judah for doing this. You know the story of what they did to this city. They carried out this thing. And they took care of all the people, the men of Shechem and the people there. And they took a few hostages and whatnot. But for the most part, they destroyed that whole city. And Jacob was upset with them. And then one of the sons is going to talk to him about, why are you angry at Simeon and Judah for doing this? And you got to read this. It's just a short. We're not gonna read all of it. We're going to read this one verse. It's going to get right to the central part of what I want you to understand through this conversation. And Judah is going to respond to his father and ask him, "Why are you mad at them for doing this? For taking care of these people? For passing this death sentence on these people? It was worthy. They should have did this." That's what Judah, and he's going to tell him why. Go ahead.
And Judah answered his father, saying, Was it for naught my brothers Simeon and Levi killed all the inhabitants of Shechem?
And he said, did they do this for nothing? They just went out and murdered these people for nothing? No. He's explaining this to his father. This is Judah talking to Jacob here. He said, man, they had they had cause to do this. And he's going to further tell him this. Go ahead.
Surely it was because Shechem had humbled our sister.
Took her virginity by force, raped her. Go ahead.
And transgressed the commandment of our God to Noah and his children, For Shechem took our sister away by force and committed adultery.
Committed what?
Adultery.
So fornication is a form of adultery. We just read that.
And was he? Didn't read it, but was he married prior to doing this with Dinah?
It's a possibility. I don't recall reading that, but he was a prince. So who knows? He might have had a harem of wives or whatnot. But we just read here what it was also. Not only did he commit fornication by doing this to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. Here Judah is telling his father, hey, they killed them people dead because this man committed adultery with our sister. No, we don't get away with this. This is something that we read. So let's go now and go back to Genesis 34 and pick up this story and look at it again. Just quickly look at it again, and we're going to see that it lines up perfect with the Bible. We went into the book of Jasher, looked at the historical record of this, and it pretty much says the same thing in the scriptures, but we're going to look at a few things and how it was worded. Okay, and this is the last place, Genesis 34, verse 1 through 4, and then we're going to skip and go to 7 and read to the 9. We're going to see if Shechem's having sex with Dinah constituted their marriage. That's what we're looking for. We haven't read it yet, and we ain't going to read it. Nevertheless, when you get to verse 1, read verse 1.
And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land.
Okay.
And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her. And we read in Joshua say he humbled her. But here it said he defiled her. Okay? Because, he ravished, abused, and lowered her to shame, brothers and sisters. By doing this, he took her virginity. Okay, go ahead. And his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. He still
died, didn't he? Because this was an unlawful act that he committed here. I don't care how much love he had for it. It was unlawful, and you can't do this. No man can do this. This was a law that the Lord gave Noah and his children that we read.
So much for sex before marriage.
Exactly. So much for that. Sex before marriage. Go ahead.
For Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, get me this damsel to wife.
Wait a minute. I thought sex constituted marriage. I thought sex established marriage. That ain't what this says right here. It's been in the Bible all this time. You ain't reading. You're not paying attention to what you're reading. But he told his father, get me this damsel or to wife. So sex did not establish Dinah as his wife, did it? No. Skip down to 7 and we're going to read to 9.
And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very
angry at this man. Go ahead.
Because he had wrought folly in Israel in lying with Jacob's daughter.
And in this sense, this word folly can be defined as foolishness and moral wickedness. He committed a crime.
Sin.
And a sin. Go ahead.
Which thing ought not to be done. And Hamor communed with them, saying...
Now, this is what he's trying to do now, is sit down with Jacob and get an arrangement, get a contract, if you will, and try to get this woman, Dinah, to be his son's wife. This is what you had to do in the days of old, and you still have to do it. There has to be an arrangement and agreement, brothers and sisters. Sex does not constitute marriage or establish marriage in any way. So he's getting ready to sit down and commune with Jacob, and of course the brothers are there. They're all there. Go ahead.
Saying, the soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter, and I pray you give her him to wife.
What? This is proof right here, brothers. Sex didn't establish nothing. It doesn't establish anything to this day and beyond us. That is not the law of Moses. That is not what's written in the scriptures at all. Don't let people tell you that. You are a fornicator if you're not doing it according to the law. Or you are a whoremonger if you're just running around all over the place and so forth. An idolatrous way. All of this stuff is inclusive, included. We read this to you, but finish reading. He says, I pray you give her to him the wife. This is Hagar talking to Jacob and his sons. Go ahead and finish this.
And make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you.
They trying to establish a custom here. No. This was again. No, Israel couldn't do this. But as you can see, brothers and sisters, sex does not constitute marriage. And I can go on and make some other comments, but I'm not. This is plain, it's simple, and it's clear that sex or having sex does not constitute marriage according to the scriptures. I don't care what your pastor say. That ain't what's written in the book. And you need to go with one or the other, because one is by God and one is by man. Which one you going to believe and follow? That's what you have to decide. But we have proven beyond a doubt that sex absolutely does not constitute marriage. So Sister Teresa and I thank you for viewing this class, and we hope and pray that you have learned something from it. Go over it, study the scriptures, and we hope that if someone approaches you again and tell you this in error, you now have the scriptures and the things to correct them with. Because the Lord told us, all of his servants, to be ready to stand in the defense of the gospel. And sex, okay, does not establish marriage. It's not the gospel. You can't defend that because that ain't written in the book. In any case, God bless you, and we'll see you next time.